Good morning, you beautiful people out there. Um, oh, well, it's morning for me. I don't know where you guys are, um, or when you are either. That's kind of wild. Anyway, it's morning for me, and I come to you today to bring you another reading. I'm going to start here on Saturday, October 29th, 2016. I found this website slash blog called Loner Wolf that's full of articles about spirituality and self-discovery, and I've been reading through a lot of it. I just finished an article about self-awareness with some recommended activities, and it has 3 recommendations for beginners. My immediate first thought was, I'm not a beginner when it comes to self-awareness. But as I brought awareness to myself, I realized that I kind of am. That notion goes against my ego picture of who I think I am, though, and it's enlightening and scary at the same time, and disheartening as well, because it makes me think that I'm not as close to this goal, whatever that may be, as I thought I was, which then makes me realize even more how much work I have ahead of me, because it's not supposed to be about the end game. It's quote unquote supposed to be about the journey or some BS like that. Damn, I'm feeling kind of lost. I know that I'm going through a spiritual awakening of sorts. There's been for a while that aching feeling that something is missing from life, a depth, a profound, I don't even have a word for it. I just feel it. Have felt it for years, I think. Maybe my whole life, even. And I've been searching, trying to fill in that blank with dreams of career paths, dreams of deep, loving relationships, stuffing it with addictions to keep my mind off the gaping hole, distractions. But it never goes away, this longing for more. I have this expectation of more out of life. I know deep within me that I am not meant to come here, work 9 to 5 every day and then die. There's got to be more than that. And that very well could be my fatal flaw, that dissatisfaction. I've thought maybe I've watched too many movies with grand soundtracks and heroes and intense love stories, and it's brainwashed me into expecting more out of life, expecting something that isn't real. Excuse me, I have a bit of a cold. It kind of makes me feel a little crazy, delusional. But I feel it so strongly. I've felt it my whole life, that there was something bigger out there, and I wanted to be a part of it. That's why I latched on to Christianity so hard as a kid and a teenager, especially the type that I was presented with, because it pulled at my emotions and promised that something bigger, and promised a love that I didn't have in my life, one that I craved intensely. But then I realized that I had been manipulated by the emotionality of the situations and the subtle and sometimes not so subtle guilt that was placed on me if I didn't perform the way a good Christian should. And all of that made me close my heart off to any kind of spirituality. I still claimed to be open to the idea that there was some sort of higher power. But I had absolutely no form of spiritual practice from probably about age 15 to roughly now. The idea has been popping into my awareness every now and then for maybe the last 6 years or so. I remember having a deep conversation with the guy that I left to move to Colorado, um, my ex-boyfriend. I remember having a conversation with him on our first date about the idea of God. Anyway, it's been hovering in my unconscious, I think, for years. And finally, now I'm actually consciously contemplating and exploring it. But something about it feels right, but also really scary at the same time. I feel myself fighting against it. There's this definite fear involved, keeping me from delving in. And this brings me back full circle to why I started writing this entry in the first place. The 3 recommendations for beginners on the path of self-awareness. They were to meditate, write in a journal, and spend time alone. And this brings to mind why I immediately rejected the idea that I'm not very self-aware, because I feel like I am when I give myself the chance to be. The problem, again, is fear. I am afraid of the intensity of my feelings sometimes. I'm afraid of the loneliness that I feel when I am without distraction. I've known for a while that this habit that I'm in of coming home and drinking a beer and smoking and reading is not healthy. I've proven that it's not the physical addiction that is the problem. I had cut out tobacco entirely for a while there. I'm just going into some... I just had this habit of spending my evenings like drinking a beer and smoking my cigarettes that I made that didn't have as much tobacco in them, but still had some. Just sitting out there and reading. That was my evening routine. It's the habit, the neuronal habit. My reward at the end of the day is that I get to shut down and exit my life. Wow. I just had to pause and contemplate those words for a few minutes. Exit my life. And that's exactly what I have been doing, or trying to do, with my distractions, exiting my own life, as if I could actually do that. As if that were a real option. I'm not exiting anything. I'm just consciously choosing not to live. I'm wasting this precious time that I have, time that would really be perfect for doing all this really hard work that I need to be doing, that I want to be doing, that I'm afraid to be doing. But why am I so afraid to discover myself? It's my ego getting in the way. The ego's fear of being wrong. My understanding is that the ego is a mental construct that we build that tells us who we are, or rather who we think we are. Like my thoughts that I am a self-aware person. So what is the problem then if that is not true? How does that hurt me? It just means that I've got more work to do to become more self-aware, right? But I imagine that is probably a lifelong process anyway. So then what? I already feel like I don't know who I am, that I don't really know the real me. That's why I feel so insecure. My self-construct, my ego, is already pretty fragile, it seems. So it seems like it would be a lot easier for me to break through, with that being the case. I wonder how the ego fits in with the internal family systems theory that I've learned from my therapist. I've got the managers who are there to protect the exile, the little girl. The managers that we discovered were, for me, the judge, the guard, and the caretaker. It's the ego. Is the ego possibly a combination of all these managers? No, it would include the little girl too, if it is a mental construct of who I am. She is a part of my self identity as well. In fact, I touched on this in my last entry when I was making my list of shadow qualities. I listed my wounded persona. That would definitely be my little girl, Exile. So, as I'm this is just a side note, as I'm writing, this is my way of kind of working through and making sense of what all the little, mental facts and snippets of information that I have in my mind. So writing helps me kind of piece it together, organize it, and make sense of it. So I just wanted to make this note because as I continue, some of the stuff comes together better and makes more sense, and I kind of change some of the ways that I think about it. But if you listen to all of this and follow along with it, you'll see the progression of how I make better and better sense as things become more and more clear to me. So, anyway. And I've got a picture here. I might include that for the video. A picture, a little diagram that I drew here of the different managers and parts in this internal family systems theory. And then it's funny, I actually, at different times when I've gone back and read through this stuff to try to make more sense of it, I've made little notes. So I've got a little note here from November 5th that says, so I was just talking about whether or not these all these different parts make up the ego. And I say that this little girl who's the exile would be part of my self-identity as well. And then, in fact, I touched on this in my last entry when I was making my list of shadow qualities. I listed my wounded persona. That would definitely be my little girl, the exile. And then I have a little note here from November 5th. Nope, see the end of November 5th entry. The shadow is another manager. And then I have some notes from the article on Loner Wolf about the shadow self. Embracing your inner darkness was the name of the article. Acceptance, taking responsibility, honesty. It's not an indulgence of the darker parts of our natures, but an acceptance and direct experience of them in the light of mindful awareness and deep honesty. This is talking about the shadow. That it's not about indulging the darker parts of our nature, but accepting that these parts are a part of us and being deeply honest with yourself. There was a little poem that somebody commented on this article. The comment is by Rich Morton, and I kind of liked it. It was a little poem. I can be the darkness, I can be the light. I'd rather live in kindness and do what's justly right. But because of situations in this world of form, sometimes the situation requires my darkness born. And I say, I like that. It's about digging deep, opening up with true awareness, and befriending all parts of the self. Integrating, meaning to make whole versus disintegrating the shadow parts and having compassion for them. So it's not about getting rid of the shadow. It's about realizing that they are a part of you and having compassion for them and integrating into them into the whole of who you are. Okay, I'm going to stop this here because it's gone kind of long. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.